My name is Lila Morgan, and if someone had told me 10 years ago that I'd be standing here, in my corner office on the 35th floor, looking down at the city lights with a champagne flute in hand, I probably would have laughed and cried at the same time. The hum of traffic below, the distant wail of a siren, the faint scent of my vanilla-scented candle mixing with the crisp aroma of my morning coffee, it all felt like a quiet triumph. Then my phone buzzed. The screen flashed his name, Dad. My chest tightened, an old ache curling in my ribcage. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the call button. He never calls me, not unless he wants something, or worse, unless he wants to remind me of the girl I used to be. I remember the words from that day, burned into memory like acid on paper. You're old enough to figure it out. He had said it, turned around and walked away, hand in hand with her, his new wife, smiling like I was invisible. Now, years later, part of me wanted to swipe decline. Another part, the smaller, bolder part, wanted to answer and let him hear the voice of the woman he left behind, strong, self-made, and thriving in ways he never imagined. I exhaled slowly, smoothing the silk of my blouse. Maybe it was time. Maybe it was time to let him see. I was 16 when it all began to unravel. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in bruised purples and golds. I remember standing in the cramped kitchen, my hands trembling as I held the envelope my father had left on the counter, another reminder that I was always somehow not enough. Lila, you're old enough to figure it out, he had said that evening, without even looking at me, before leaving with that familiar, confident stride, hand in hand with his new wife. Her laughter echoed down the hallway, a cruel soundtrack to my humiliation. I wanted to scream, to throw the envelope across the room, to beg him to see me, not the girl who had made mistakes, not the girl who still needed guidance, but the daughter who had loved him fiercely. I sank into the worn wooden chair, gripping the edge so tightly my knuckles turned white. The sting in my chest burned worse than any slap, and my tears blurred the faint glow of the kitchen light. That night, I understood something I hadn't fully grasped before. No one was coming to save me. If I wanted anything, respect, freedom, dignity, I'd have to take it myself. Grandma Ruth's words came to me like a whispered prayer she had once given me. Strength isn't about who stands by your side. It's about who stands when everyone walks away. I reached for the small, silver locket she had gifted me on my 12th birthday, the one she said carried courage inside. That locket became my secret talisman, a tiny anchor in a storm of heartbreak. By the end of that night, I made a promise to myself. I would rise, not to prove him wrong, not for revenge, but for the girl in that kitchen, the one who had been left behind. I would build a life that no one could dismiss, not even him. After that night in the kitchen, I buried my heartbreak beneath determination. College became my sanctuary, the library my battlefield. While other kids worried about parties and boys, I worried about building a life that no one could take from me. I worked 2 jobs, studied late into the night, and learned to stretch every dollar until it stretched no further. The locket Grandma Ruth had given me never left my neck. It was a reminder that strength wasn't optional. One rainy afternoon, I met Margaret Sinclair, a seasoned editor at a publishing house downtown. She had sharp eyes that seemed to see through hesitation, through fear, and she asked one question that changed everything. "Why are you hiding your fire, Lila?" Her words felt like a challenge, and for the first time, I realized someone believed in me. Under her guidance, I started freelancing, editing manuscripts, and pitching ideas to clients. Every small success, a book accepted, a client praising my work, felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. But the journey wasn't without its battles. I doubted myself constantly. Was I good enough? Was I ambitious enough? Nights blurred into early mornings, my hands stiff from typing, eyes dry from exhaustion and stress. Social events were invitations I declined, not out of arrogance, but because every moment away from my goals felt like surrender. I endured subtle dismissals, clients assuming I was inexperienced because I was young, or worse, because I was a woman, but each slight fueled my resolve. Slowly, victories stacked upon victories. My first major client gave me enough to move into a small but elegant apartment downtown. My first profitable project let me invest in my own business. I learned not only the mechanics of finance and entrepreneurship, but also the rhythm of patience and resilience. The world outside thought I was still the girl who had been left behind, posting modest updates on social media, never hinting at the empire I was quietly building. Each evening, as I returned to my apartment, I would hold the locket in my palm and whisper to the girl I once was, "You will never be invisible again." And somewhere in the back of my mind, I nurtured a quiet plan, not for revenge, but for acknowledgement. One day, they would see me, really see me, and the woman I had become would speak louder than any apology ever could. The knock on my door was polite, almost hesitant. I glanced at the clock, 3:17 p.m., and my chest tightened for the briefest second before I smoothed it away. Standing there was my father, the man whose words had once shattered me, flanked by his new wife. Their smiles were practiced, the kind people wear when they expect gratitude for a courtesy they never earned. "Lila," he said, his voice a tempting warmth. "We thought we'd stop by." I gestured for them to enter. "Of course," I replied, calm, measured. Inside, the apartment was nothing like the small, cramped kitchen where he had left me behind years ago. Expensive abstract art adorned the walls, a hand-picked bookshelf displayed first editions and awards, and the soft golden light from the floor lamps gave the room a quiet warmth. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with jasmine from the balcony. Every detail whispered that I had built this life with my own hands, quietly, steadily, and fiercely. They paused, taking it all in. My father's eyes flicked to the locket around my neck, a faint recognition that I caught, but chose to ignore. His new wife's gaze swept over the furniture, the gleaming hardwood floors, the subtle elegance of it all. I let the silence linger, each second a gentle accumulation of suspense, before speaking. "I hear you've been curious about how I've been," I began. My voice was steady, calm, unshakable. "I wanted you to see for yourself." Their expressions shifted from polite curiosity to stunned disbelief. I walked to my desk, where a sleek laptop hummed quietly. I tapped a few keys, and a presentation illuminated the screen. My company's portfolio, contracts, financial statements, and recent media coverage highlighting my achievements. "You left me to figure things out, remember?" I continued, a faint, almost ironic smile brushing my lips. "So I did. And I didn't just figure it out, I thrived. Every project, every client, every decision, every sacrifice I made it for me. Not for recognition, not for your approval, for me." My father's face was pale, his confident posture faltering for the first time in memory. His new wife's eyes widened, her smile disappearing into a faint frown. I could see the weight of guilt and disbelief press down on him, and it felt good. Not for revenge, but because the truth finally had a voice. I let the silence stretch a beat longer, letting them absorb it fully. The woman they had underestimated, the girl they had dismissed, was standing taller than ever. Then I added softly, almost conversationally, "I hope you enjoy the view. From here, everything looks a little different, doesn't it?" No words could undo the years of neglect, but this moment, this revelation, spoke louder than any apology ever could. And for the first time, I realized I didn't need his approval. I only needed him to see. After the initial shock settled into silence, I took a deep breath and let myself fully inhabit the power I had earned. This wasn't about revenge, it was about setting the terms, defining boundaries, and finally deciding who I allowed into my life, and under what circumstances. "Here's the deal," I began, my tone calm but unwavering. "I'm willing to let you be a part of my life again, but on my terms. There will be no more dismissals, no more assumptions, and no more taking me for granted. If you can't respect that, then it's better we go our separate ways." My father opened his mouth, probably to argue, but I held up a hand. "No. This isn't a negotiation about the past. This is about the future. I've built everything I have through dedication, patience, and self-respect. If you want a place in my life, you need to meet me there, not drag the old patterns along." I turned my gaze to his new wife. And you, please stop pretending everything about me is what it was when I was 16. I am not a reflection of your comfort or your illusions of family. Respect me, or step aside. I could see the tension in both of them, but I pressed on, softening slightly, letting the warmth of compassion show through the firmness. If you want to rebuild anything with me, here's what needs to happen. You both need to pursue your lives with honesty, let go of toxic habits, and actually support the people around you instead of undermining them. My forgiveness is not free. It's earned through action, not words. It felt strange, yet liberating, to finally articulate what had simmered inside me for years. I wasn't just protecting myself, I was guiding them toward growth. If they wanted access to my world, they had to evolve alongside me. I paused and glanced down at the locket around my neck, feeling its reassuring weight. Grandma Ruth's words echoed in my mind. Strength isn't about who stands by your side. It's about who stands when everyone walks away. I realized that now, standing here, I wasn't just strong, I was in control. My father swallowed hard, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of genuine understanding, mixed with guilt. His new wife, too, seemed to realize that the girl she had assumed was fragile had become an unshakable force. The balance had shifted. I wasn't at their mercy anymore. I had set the rules, and they were clear. Finally, I exhaled, letting the tension leave my body. I wasn't angry anymore. I was composed, decisive, and most importantly, free to choose who belonged in my life, and under what terms. And this was just the beginning of the transformation for them and for me. Weeks passed after the confrontation, and the air between us slowly began to shift. My father and his wife didn't change overnight. No one does, but I could see glimpses of transformation. He started asking questions, genuinely curious about my work, my achievements, and my life outside the family drama. She began acknowledging me without condescension, offering support in subtle, unforced ways. Small steps, but real ones. I noticed how lighter the apartment felt whenever I reflected on those changes. I wasn't holding grudges, so much as I was redefining my boundaries. Each conversation with them reminded me that respect had to be mutual, and my happiness wasn't contingent on their approval anymore. I was no longer the girl in the kitchen, waiting for recognition that would never come. Every morning, I touched the silver locket around my neck, a ritual that had started years ago in my grandmother's warm kitchen. The locket wasn't just a keepsake. It was a symbol of resilience, of self-reliance, and of the promises I had made to myself. It reminded me that strength wasn't something given. It was forged in silence, sweat, and tears. I also reflected on the woman I had become, decisive, self-assured, empathetic yet firm, capable of seeing the world with both clarity and compassion. The pain I endured had shaped me, yes, but it hadn't defined me. I had chosen to define myself, to build my life not on the approval of those who abandoned me, but on my own vision and determination. As I stood on my balcony one evening, the city lights sparkling below like scattered stars, I felt a profound sense of closure. My father, my family, even the shadow of that 16-year-old girl, they all had their places now. But I was standing firmly in mine, unshakable, independent, and free. And in that moment, I whispered to myself, softly but firmly, the words that had carried me through every hardship: I am enough. I always was, and I always will be. The past had tried to break me. The world had tried to underestimate me. But I had risen, fully, completely, and on my own terms. And that, finally, was a victory worth more than any apology or recognition could ever be.